God's about to bring the whole house down, ladies and gentlemen. These bunch of sex trafficking mongrels are about to be exposed. These bunch of pedophiles in Hollywood are going to be exposed for who they are. I don't care what you think about fraudulent Sleepy Joe. He's a sex trafficking, demon-possessed mongrel. He's of the left. He ain't no better than the Pope and Oprah Winfrey and Tom Hanks and the rest of that wicked crowd. God is going to bring the whole house down.
I don't like the words he's using, but I'm excited about it. He's really excited, and he's like, it's Oprah and it's the Pope, and they're comparable in some way. And Tom Hanks, you know about the Tom Hanks. Wait, what was all that about? So there's a little bit of Biden's fraudulent. There's a little bit of sex trafficking and demons. To Charles' point earlier, you could really tie in. It's really hot. Maybe it's because of that demon president we've got. But anyway, what you're seeing there is right-wing pastor Greg Locke. But what he had to say had very little to do explicitly with religion, with any religion. Almost all of what he had to say there was effectively QAnon stuff. That's what it was. But you'll note he didn't mention QAnon. He didn't mention Q in any way. So what I want to talk about here is what a lot of people are saying is the next phase of QAnon, which is the QAnon without the Q and without the non. But all of the mythology remains. They're still, see, we have the Q, but they don't. Note that. It's still they're trafficking children. It's still like their weird obsession with people like Tom Hanks. That's really what sells it. Why Tom Hanks? Well, because QAnon thinks that Tom Hanks is trafficking children. There's still going to be retribution. Now, Greg Locke flavors it as God is going to come down on all these people. Traditional old recipe QAnon was somehow the military is going to come in and kill all the Democrats. But it's all about all of the elites that you don't like are trafficking children, they're raping children, and at some point there's gonna be some sort of retribution and they're all gonna die. But we're not saying Q anymore, so you can't ban us from YouTube, I guess. Charles, what do you think about this?
I think it's too hot and it's melting people's brains. This is very, very beyond sad. It's very disconcerting. Like it's almost like Bizarro RPG, like people playing like a role play game, and to step out of that Bizarro Land universe. I think that there are people who simply cannot accept and embrace, not even embrace, because that's probably asking far too much, but they cannot accept the reality of America as it is. They cannot accept that the reality of what it is that they thought that they knew, believed in, or wanted, that made them comfortable, that they grew up on, that they know that has allowed them to exist without much constraint or limit, has changed and continues to change and is being challenged in ways substantively that have not been before. And so instead of existing in that reality, it's easier for them, and I say this quite seriously, to sort of cling to these notions that explain why all of this is happening and make it something that they can continue to resist. And they've done it for so long that at this point they're so deep down the rabbit hole that to admit that they were wrong leaves them in a space of, well, if all of that was a farce, if all of that was a joke, if I believed in all of that, what does that say? What does it leave me? What is my actual reality? So I think, unfortunately, what it boils down to is that a bunch of these folks, if you looked at who was in the audience there, you didn't see much diversity.
That's true,
right? So like a bunch of folks are looking at the way that things around us are changing. They don't like it. That is a reality that they want to reject. So it's easier for them to come up with all these cockamamie stories and plot twists and lines of reason that don't make any sense or go anywhere or have any actual support as an alternative to the current reality because they're just not comfortable. And I think it's actually relatively sad that someone would be that uncomfortable with reality that they would make up one to live in. But
yeah, and look, I think that that's very common. The thing that bothers me is that there's so many people that are ready to pounce on those. The millions and millions of Americans that have reached this level of psychological and emotional fragility that they cannot accept any more bad news, basically. Like it's avoidance of cognitive dissonance, basically. Like, I believe that this was going to happen. This didn't happen. That hurts. No, wait, it did happen somehow. That's easier somehow. And the need for things to be simplified. That I can't oppose Joe Biden because he's going to raise the corporate tax rate theoretically by a couple percentage points, which he isn't going to do. But let's say that's a reason to oppose him. That's not good enough. I have to oppose him because he is the literal devil. That's easier. It doesn't require as much thought and all of that. It has to be simple and it has to be what I want. And that's what you have with QAnon. That's what you have now. And this is sort of the Christian version of it. There's other versions too. Now, I want to play a little bit more of his video, and then we've got a poll for you because I'm curious what people think about this. So here's a bit more of Greg Locke.
Do you really think it's that much of an epidemic? Do you honestly believe, we're gonna get some more crazy. Do you honestly believe, Pastor Locke, that the military uncovered tunnels beneath the Capitol building and beneath the White House and in the Five-Fingered Lakes? Do you really believe that they found kids? Yeah, both live ones and dead ones. And if you disagree with that, and if you try to discount that, and if you try to cover that, and if you try to keep that on the DL, you're just as complicit as Hunter Biden and the rest of them bunch of crack-smoking perverts.
Okay, so if you're watching that and you're terrified about the sex trafficking, if anyone tries to save you from this misinformation, they're as bad as the perverts. So this is a grifter. That's all he's doing is he's grifting, and he's trying to inoculate the people listening to him, not against COVID. That's something that the devil is trying to do to you. Inoculate them against any appeal to reason or sanity. Those are as bad as the pedophiles. And it's sad and it's evolving. We're gonna occasionally check in because you need to know that it's out there. Just because you don't see Q in people's social media doesn't mean this thing is dead. Now, really fast, we do have a poll. Let's bring that up. I wanna see what y'all think about this. So who is most likely to have kids in their basement? Because I wanna give him a real chance at his theory. Is it Joe Biden? Is it Tom Hanks? Is it Oprah Winfrey? Or is it Brett Ehrlich? You can go to tyt.com/polls and let us know.
I make the list. Are we?
That's true. No, they don't mind that. They're okay with Matt Gaetz. They don't mind Jeffrey Epstein and his connections to Republican politicians. They don't care about the actual stuff. But I just, because he didn't put enough names for us to fill the list. So we had to fill it in and we just put the things that seemed most reasonable. So tyt.com/polls. We're gonna do the results on the show tomorrow. Any final thoughts? We got like 20 seconds more, Charles, on QAnon's evolution.
I just think that this is really a dividing line between the haves and have not. And what I mean by the haves, I mean it has a modicum of sense and those who do not. Because at the end of the day, everyone on the QAnon piece is consistently talking about what is about to happen. It is about to be blown off of this. Everything's about to be revealed. And we've been waiting for this big reveal. And guess what, QAnon? It's just not coming. At what point
That's true.
Decide to back it up?
Yeah, maybe someday, but we're not there yet, unfortunately.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.